What's going on, everybody? This is David Brooks, the Cadillac Counselor, coming at you to tell you a little bit what's going on my mind. And today, what's going on my mind is a young man that I was watching on Facebook, and I noticed that he was running for mayor of Frederick in the next coming election. Me and my wife had a conversation about it, and then next thing you know, we connected through Facebook, and now I get a chance to interview him and bring him to you. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Jeremy. Jeremy, tell me a little bit about who you are as a person.
I'm Jeremy Darius Abbott, and I graduated from a local high school, Frederick High School, in 2019. I've been in Frederick since I was in the fifth grade, and I'm just like virtually anybody else, right? I don't come from a rich family, right? I'm not someone who has a lot of money, influence. I'm the average person, and I think that gives me a really distinct advantage in this race because I personally feel like we've got our politicians who have separated themselves from the average person in this community. And so that's something I'm really looking forward to pushing forward with in this race, and is being able to connect to the community that I grew up in and the community that helped me grow a love for my neighbor and grow the ambitions that I have to be in this spot right now.
And so, with that, and I'll tell you, I mean, just to see that there's a young man that is passionate about trying to make some change is awesome. So, my question to you is what made you decide to run for mayor?
So there's a lot that goes into it. And I don't want to talk your ear off, but I really could. But some of the most important things is I love my community. I came here from a really rough community in another county, and I got here, and I instantly, it was different. I had teachers, community leaders, church leaders take an interest, a real interest in my life. And I went into high school just kind of vaguely, you know, going through the waters in life, and I walked out those doors with some ambition. I feel like I owe a debt to my community that I will never be able to pay off. But this is a really good place to start. When I had hopped into the race, there were two candidates for mayor. One of them was the incumbent mayor, and one was an alderman of the same party. And my initial thought was, it's awfully interesting that we've got two members of the same party, one a mayor, one an alderman, running against each other. Now, they're not denouncing of each other's jobs, so until that happens, I'm forced to be left with the thought that there's some political play going on. They're using the position as a stepping stool for the next, prong in their political career. And that's not something I can sit here and watch as a member of the community that's really helped me become the person I am today.
So, you're a young Republican, am I correct?
Yes.
Why did you become a Republican?
So it's an interesting story. When I was like 11 years old when the 2012 election had rolled around, and I didn't know anything about politics. I was just in the sixth grade, and my parents and my mom's side of the family were talking about the elections, and they were just saying some really mean things about Mitt Romney. And I was 11, and I was like, oh, why are we saying mean things about this guy? So I just wanted him to win just because I viewed him as an underdog and, whatever, which is not a good reason, right? But I was 11, and when he lost, it sparked something in me because I'm a really competitive guy, right? My dad used to beat my butt in Mortal Kombat, right? So it made me really competitive. So when he lost, I took it like as a loss for me. So I got into politics at that point. And because he was a Republican, I just looked at Republican stuff. And over time, I grew some of those
You said
values.
you got into politics. What other politics or arenas have you been in before you decided to go and run for mayor?
So I've worked with many campaigns, from state delegate to state senate. I ran for party central committee when I was a junior in high school, student government, if you consider that politics, and most recently I worked for a United States Senate campaign.
So, what did you take out of those races that made it where you said, you know what, I can do this myself?
So the number one thing I really took from being involved in politics is that there's a level of disconnect between the politician and the average person. The politician who has been there for a long time and who's made a career in politics, frankly, does not have a lot of thoughts about anybody else, right? I have not worked for someone who is an incumbent, I believe. I have not worked for someone who has made a career out of politics. It's always been someone who was a business owner. I worked for a former and recovered drug addict. I worked for someone who was in law school. And these are people who got up and decided to make a change in their communities. And unfortunately, none of them were able to dethrone the incumbent. But during those races and seeing how it's possible that the other side could berate a recovered drug addict really put into perspective for me how our political ruling class views everybody else and their thoughts for members of the community that get into politics not to make money, not to have power, but to bring change. And so I looked at that and I saw, it's happening with the United States Senate level, state delegate, state senate. Start looking at our city, and it's happening to our city too. And so if it's happening here, who's going to be the one to do something about it? And I decided it just had to be me.
If it's going to be you, then what do you plan to stand on, or what's your platform for winning Frederick City Mayor?
So there are three really important things on my platform. My number one goal is I want to bring a teen challenge to Frederick. If you're unfamiliar with Teen Challenge, it's a faith-based, long-term residential drug rehabilitation facility. Compared to other rehab centers where they just kind of put you on Narcan and send you on your way, what Teen Challenge does is it's long-term residential, right? You have to graduate. It's a program, and you go, and not only do they get you off of drugs, but they try to heal the body, the spirit, and the mind, and it's faith-based. Now, I come from a religious background. Now, I'm someone who's been particularly hard on myself, and there are times where I've just felt really bad in my sins. But Jesus heals. And Jesus heals me with some mental health issues, how I view myself, my self-image. Jesus is the main focus in Teen Challenge. And that was a pivotal part in the healing of the U.S. Senate candidate that I'd worked for, who was a former drug addict, and many other people. It's just something that we need in this community, I feel like. They have a success rate of up to like 70%. 70 to 78%, depending on which one you look at. And it's just something we need in this community. I'm very passionate about that. I also want to stop wasteful spending. The city government wastes so much money. We spent $45,000 on a logo that we didn't even use. Imagine if instead, look, we could give $22,000 scholarships for less money, and we could give it to kids who had the highest amount of hours of community service, right? That pays for a year at FCC, in Frederick Community College, right? You just helped 20 kids from historically disadvantaged communities get put through college. But instead, we'd rather redesign a logo or put up purple banners downtown, or along 40, or things like that, right? Another thing I want to do is I want to bring a marijuana dispensary to Frederick. To the city of Frederick. We have one in the county, but I want one in the city. I'm not someone who smokes, right? But we find that in states like Colorado, where they have allowed for marijuana to be used recreationally, the overdose rate for some of the harsher drugs dropped 30%. I'm someone who supports anything that gets people off of drugs, right? Now, we are putting people in the system for having marijuana on them, and it's destroying families, and people get out and they don't have a lot of opportunities because their records are ruined. When we could just not do that, when we could collect the revenue from this war on drugs battle that has been lost, and we could put that towards rebuilding the community, towards the Teen Challenge that I had talked about, towards scholarships, towards roads, putting nets in our basketball hoops, anything that helps the community. And so those are the three things that really make my platform a community-based platform.
What if somebody, doesn't really care about drug addicts. They don't care about the homeless people out on, you talked about Carroll Park, and just they just putting money into things, banners, and all of that. But this is my question: what if somebody doesn't care about any of those things? What else are you going to look at that might look at the government structure, or to, you mentioned the roads, or anything else? What other tangible thing can we say that Jeremy Darius Abbott is really focused on?
So the politics has got to go in our city government. We have we have a board of aldermen and a mayor who at every turn seems to do something that would be popular for whichever interest group that they think will give them the next money in their next election. A perfect example are things like styrofoam plate bans, plastic bag bans, things like that. Now, the city government is not going to be the ones who end world pollution. That being said, what we can do is not make it harder for our businesses to serve the community. We find that our taxes have gone up. I went downtown and I asked business owners, what are some things you think that the city could do better? And a lot of them said, I mean, the taxes have gone up and the recycling gets taken out less. So they're telling me that they're paying more to the city government, but receiving less. So where's that money going? The answer is nobody really knows, right? There's a vague section in the budget called just governmental funds, but nobody exactly knows where's it going. So some transparency would be nice, but it would be easier to be transparent if we just didn't take more money to not give back to the community, right? We had a budget that was like $70 million less than the most recent budget with the previous mayor. And we didn't have to cut the amount of times that we take out recycling, or we didn't have to cut leaf pickup programs, things like that. And so I would like to return to that type of government and that type of way that the government would run, as opposed to the government that we have now, where it seems like our politicians use every opportunity to make sure that their name gets put on a banner, or that, I'm the mayor that brought the new logo, even though that, wasn't very successful.
So, what would you say to a naysayer who says, um, this young man is too focused on being a Christian? He's too young. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't even, what does he know about being a mayor? What would you say to counteract that?
So in regards to the Christian thing, I will never back down from my faith, ever. And if it's a problem with anyone that my faith is the number one thing motivating me and pushing me to do good in my community, then I'm sorry to tell you, but I'm never going to back down from that. Now, I'm never going to back down from my age either. Yes, I am 20 years old. I wouldn't even be the youngest mayor in Maryland history. We have a mayor in Indian Head, I believe, who was elected. He was 17 years old, if I remember correctly. He's done a pretty good job. He's been reelected. Now, I can tell you what I want to do. And I would hope that my platform lands with you. If I had told you everything that I just told you, but I had been 40 years older, would it have made a difference? No, it's the same things. I don't want to do anything different than what I just told you. And I think, frankly, being young is an advantage, because I don't owe any politicians any favors. Right? I'm not going to go out and recruit a police chief from an area that is nowhere near here to pay back dues or to make it look like I've got these political moves going on. No. Look, I'm young. I'm a member of the community, and there's no going back from that. And frankly, I'm proud of who I am.
I was looking at that Facebook post, and it seemed to me that people were really, really coming at you about the LGBTQ. It was like people kept saying, "Well, you're not answering the question. They kept going back and forth. Let's just put it on the line. What is it? How do you feel? If people say, okay, he's Christian, he's Republican, He's young. What does he think about this particular issue? What is it?
Yeah, so I found those questions rather interesting because there there's no city issue right now that has anything to do with that. That's really a state and a national issue, right? Like gay marriage and things like that. That's been settled. Right? There's nothing that the city can do or is doing or will do that affects that at all. Right? I want to bring positive change for my community. I don't care what you look like. I don't care if you're white, black, brown, purple. I don't care if you have a boyfriend, girlfriend. I want to bring positive change to my community. I want to get people off of drugs. I want people to be able to go outside and play basketball on hoops that have nets. I want people to not have to worry about popping their tires when they drive on certain roads, irregardless of what you look like. And I think being a Christian is also a really big part of that. Jesus taught love, right? I'm a sinner. I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to tell anybody that I'm better than you. Regardless of who you sleep with, I'm not perfect. And Jesus said, let the man who has not sinned cast the first stone. Guess I'm not casting any stones.
My final question, all right, just to wrap everything up. Why should someone vote for you?
It's a great question. I think my platform is the best platform out there. And I think, frankly, I'm someone who genuinely does care about the community. As I said, I feel like I have a debt that I owe to this community because it took me out of a really rough situation and it gave me something that is going to take me a very long way, that is priceless. My fire, my aspiration and ambitions. When I came here, I was actually an atheist. I was an atheist when I moved to Frederick. But through religious leaders in the community, I found Jesus. And that's a really big part of why I want to help the community so bad. I'm not someone who's going to politicize the budget, politicize the Board of Aldermen voting on a police chief. I want to help the community. And that's something that I think is lacking in the other announced candidates right now, is that they're candidates who want to forward their political careers. I'm not someone who's worried about my political career right now. I'm someone who wants to help the community.
I appreciate the fact that you came by to chat and to talk. I think we've had a wonderful conversation. Just I got a chance to know you personally, and not just Facebook. I mean, it's just been an awesome conversation to see a young 20-year-old man deciding to say, you know what, I'm putting my city first. And I can tell you that you got a long road to go. I know that you got a lot of hills to climb, and I just wanted to put you out there first as saying that David Brooks, the Cadillac Counselor, is really watching this. And I just really hope that you do well. Because like I said, regardless if you win or lose, I want you to make a statement. And whatever that statement is, go out there and make a strong one. You got me?
I got you.
And I want you to keep going, keep doing what you're doing, keep a positive outlook in life, and never lose your smile. All right?
Thank you.
Don't lose that smile no matter what. So, people, this is the Cadillac Counselor coming at you with just another uncut news situation because it's about making it great without the hate. And I think that this young man is definitely trying to make some change without bringing hate to anyone. So take it easy. Thanks for watching. Bye.